I made a tool that lets you take a Minecraft screenshot like this, draw some special lines on it, and then find the player's exact position and rotation. So how does it work? Well, it's all based on a technique known as perspective endpoint. This technique works through having a set of points which you know both the camera coordinates and world coordinates of. Then you can use these correspondences to solve for the camera's position and rotation. One potential application of this software is to analyze footage to help detect cheating. For example, you can analyze PvP footage and keep track of the camera angle and use this to detect aimbot, or in the case of parkour, keep track of which jumps are tick perfect. So for example, you could see that someone makes every single tick perfect jump despite 2 events ago not even making 70% of them. Another application of this software is map recreation. I added a feature called reprojection extension, so once you know a few points and you know where the camera is, you can extend the points you do know to find the points you don't know. Now I have all of these coordinates, just like that. This project is open source and free to modify on GitHub. It releases as both a single standalone Python file, or it can be embedded directly into the browser without needing to install anything. There's a live copy of this straight on my website. Link to this in the description, of course. To learn how to use it, you can also read through the controls here. And if you can't be bothered doing that, you can always download it. You can upload it and ask ChatGPT about it if you can't be bothered reading through the whole thing. Alternatively, the rest of this video will be a tutorial on how to use it. So if you're not really interested in using it, then this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. So, welcome to the app. First thing you want to do is select either a video or an image to analyze. You can provide a media API, which returns a JSON object telling it where it can find direct links to images and videos, so that way you can use it straight in the browser without having to download anything. Alternatively, you can upload your own video or an image to analyze. So if you select a video, you'll find yourself in the video player, where you can pick a part of interest. You can also enter a timestamp, which can be in seconds, can be in a normal timestamp, or it can also be in a format like 1 minute, 1 second, like that. We also have frames, so you can go to a set number of frames, like 30, or let's say 330 frames, and it'll automatically update. You can also go frame by frame with comma and period, like you would on YouTube, left and right arrow at 5 seconds, and you can use J and L to go by 10 seconds. Once you've found a part of interest in the video, you can press Analyze, and that'll open up the annotation view. Or if you just selected an image, that'll take you straight here. First things first, you can hold Control and then left click to pan around, and you can scroll to zoom. If you just scrolled normally without Control, you'll head back up here. So, as you may have guessed, this program is all about drawing lines. The way you do that is with 1, 2, and 3, which correspond to red, green, and blue, or X, Y, and Z. Now these arrows need to travel in the positive direction of that axis. So like this would be, for example, positive X, this would be positive Z, and then of course positive Y is always up in Minecraft. You can also draw the arrows instead of tail to tip, you can draw them tip to tail. So if we use 1 to go forward, as well as 2 and 3, then the opposites are just below, Q, W, and E. So Q for X backwards, W for Y backwards, and E for Z backwards. You can also just press Tab to toggle between one direction and the other, like this. Now, an important part of this program is labeling edges. If you right-click, that will increment your label. You can also use the up and down arrows, and you can use plus and minus. If it has no label, that means you don't know how long it is in blocks. This will happen whenever something is cut off screen. See how I can't see the top of this block? That means I shouldn't label it with a length because I don't know what the length is because it's not a full block. If I do, however, know the length, then what you want to do is right click until it's the right length. So say I go down here, now I can go right click for 1, 2, and then 3, and that'll bring me up to here. When you draw 2 lines, they will automatically connect. Let's say I draw this here, and this here, and then see how it's highlighted? That means they're ready to connect. Once they automatically connect, they will perfectly meet. If you hold backtick, you can see how they were originally aligned. And if you hold shift and backtick, that's how you drew them. That's how you drew them. That's how they were optimized without shift, and then let go for them snap together. As you may have noticed, we have what I call optical optimization. So what that means is as you're drawing a line, these whiskers come out. What these whiskers do is when you let go, they find the strongest edges near them and find where that point is, and then those appear in white. Then it automatically finds the line of best fit to snap the line you're drawing straight to where it actually is. Here's another example. Boom. Perfect alignment. So, side note, sometimes you get situations like this, where this sign, if I just try to draw the line normally, see how it's going to snap and pull it off because of this strong edge here. Sometimes what you want to do is you can hold shift. So I'm going to start holding shift, then no more whiskers, then I let go, and then we get whiskers again. If I do this, now it snaps using this and not using this false edge here. So you want to use that whenever there's a misleading edge or there's a signal which it's hard to make out, so it won't be able to use the edge snapping. Now let's talk about mistakes. If you make a mistake, you can always just press Ctrl-Z to undo lines. There's also an edit mode which you can enter by pressing 4. Now, the nearest edge to my mouse is highlighted. If I click on an edge, then that selects it. And for example, here I'm going to press 3 to turn that into Z. Click on this, and then I can press up arrow to increment that to 1, and then press 3 to turn that to Z. I can also select this line over here, and then press delete to get rid of it. Now, once you have something selected, you will need to deselect it by pressing escape, and then if you want to return to annotation mode, you will have to press one of your keys, 1, 2, 3, Q, W, or E. Now, you need to be careful because you might accidentally get stuck in edit mode if you have something selected and you're trying to return back by pressing one of those keys, when in reality you're just changing the selected line. So always remember to deselect it with escape, then press your annotation key, and then you can keep on annotating. You can save your projects by pressing Ctrl-S. That will save it as an SVG. Now these SVGs can also be loaded back, so for example this, and then you'll get back all your annotation. If you look inside these SVGs, you'll see it has the original image as well as all these layers like the structure and the anchors, and you can go in and you can have a look at everything. Now if you look inside the raw text of the SVG, there is a script tag ID mcv-data which contains all the JSON data, so that includes the annotations and the anchors and how that is all linked together. Now back to you, dead version of me that has spent way too many hours doing recording after recording. Here's an annotation I prepared. Now let's say you've finished a big detailed annotation like this. Now always remember that you don't label edges if they are cut off, like here, that's cut off the top of the screen. That's not, so you can label that with 1. Here, label that, that's length 2. Here's another example, that is cut off, so we don't know what it is, so keep that in mind. Now, once we've set up all our annotations, we can press A. This enters anchor mode. As you can see, is very broken. Why is that broken? So, once you've done your annotation, you can press A to enter anchor mode. Now, anchors are vertices that you know the in-game coordinates of. Now, you can start recreating the map, and then you'll use the coordinates of your recreation of the map. So here, let's say you just go in a world and you build this structure, then you figure out where this is in the world. So if you want to create a new anchor, you just click on a vertex, and then you can just type in the coordinates, and then you can also come in and just press delete. So once you've anchored something, then it can use the directions and the lengths to, let me press S. S is solve. So solve will automatically find where all the other vertices are based on just the anchors and the lengths and direction. So sometimes you will get a conflict though. Let's say I press 4 to edit. Let's say I make this too long. Now if I enter solve, notice how the rest of the things here, okay, like look, that's supposed to solve, but it failed because this has failed and it turns red. So here we can see it's got 2 conflicting coordinates from 2 different spots. And if you look at the difference between them, you can see it's vertical, 6 versus 5. And that can help clue you in about what's wrong. And then you can come in, use your edit mode in 4 to fix it up. Once you have everything good, all green, you know all the coordinates, finally, once you're in full solve, then you can press D. And D will actually do the solve. This works for both the Python and web versions, but the Python version solves it a bit more accurately using PNL, while the web version just uses PnP. So if you want the best accuracy, use the Python version. So you get a TP command, and you get all the stats. So once I have my coordinates, I can show you that that didn't work. Hold please. Okay, now once you have your coordinates, as you can see, it is an exact match. Look at that. Okay, let's say that I don't know where this anchor is. What you can do is after you've solved, so I'll do S to solve and then D to find the pose. Now from here you can press R to enter reprojection mode. You can press R to return back here. So in reprojection mode, it takes the known points and it uses the predicted camera position to project them back onto the screen. You should see these line up very closely. If you see that this doesn't align, then that probably means one of your anchors is in the wrong position or has the wrong coordinates. What you can do is you can click on a vertex in this mode and you can extend it. So I can use 1, 2, 3 QWE to go, say, for example, -x, -x, then I can press 2 to go up, +y, -y. And what I can do with this, escape to exit, is I can, for example, let's see, we go -x and then -z by 7 units, I believe. And then we can start heading back in +x. And boom, see how I've connected with this? What I can do is I can click on this vertex and boom, it has now been anchored. So this is extension anchoring. Before I didn't know anything about where this section was, but now I use an extension to anchor this section, and now it's solved. And then I can get an even better prediction for where the camera is. This can also help with map recreation, because say I don't know where something is, I can use extensions to find it. Let's say I'm trying to go over here, so I'll go +x, that looks like -z, -z, and then up 2, boom. And now I found this vertex, even though I didn't know where it was before. So this is very good for map recreation. So you just take one cluster and then you can extend it, get a better and better prediction, and it will help you rebuild a map. The only other thing I have to touch on is what this screen actually means. So we have points. How many of the points were good enough to actually use in the solve? Image dimensions. It also detects FOV. So it originally guesses the default Minecraft FOV of 70. And then it tries to optimize the focal length. So FOV is dependent on screen size, but the focal length is the actual camera property of basically how zoomed in it is. Then it optimizes it to find what it thinks is the true focal length and FOV. And this is an important one. This is the reprojection RMSE. What this means is basically how much error there is. So on average, each vertex that I drew was about 2 pixels away from where its reprojection is. So in reprojection mode, you'd see that where I drew the vertex would be slightly off by only like 2 pixels. And then finally, we have camera position. So now this method finds the position of the player's camera, but that's not actually where they are. Luckily for us, in Minecraft, the player's position is located, I believe, 1.62 blocks below where the camera is. Yeah, so as you can just look it up, 1.62 meters. So if you take the camera position, you subtract 1.62, you get the player position. But that's assuming they're standing. If they're crouching, you will have to add an extra 0.35, because when you crouch, your camera goes 0.35 blocks lower. So you do need to be careful that the camera position and player position are different, and if they're crouching, you have to compensate by 0.35 block. We also get your pitch. Now, in Minecraft, it gives you rotation in your and pitch, not pitch in your. And if you give it a string for where it should be, like this, X, Y, Z, your pitch, then it will also give you error. So in this case, I'm putting in exactly where it's said, but like, say I increment this by 1, then you'll see the error is off by 1 degree. And then if I go in here, change this to 19, it's off by 1 block. And this is Euclidean distance. So if I change it to 6, we should see root 2. So if you do know the exact true location, you can get error. And that way you know that this method actually works. But you should just be able to look in game and see that it's aligned perfectly. But yeah, that's how you can test for yourself how good the fit is. So yeah, that's about all we have.